Okay, so now I'm delighted to be joined by Emma Jones, the founder of Enterprise Nation. And day one, Inspiration Day of Newcastle Startup Week, I always try to invite speakers who've inspired me, helped me over the years, or encouraged me to start my own business. And there's definitely Emma Jones is right up there, someone who's been a huge inspiration to me over the years. So welcome to the Zoom chat, Emma.
Thank you, and lovely to be here, and thanks for that lovely introduction.
No, you're welcome. So we've kind of known each other. I was trying to figure out quite a long time now. So probably goes back to when I was working for Shell Livewire, the youth enterprise scheme. So that would have been between 2012 and 2015, I think. So yeah, so that's what, eight years at least.
Yeah, you're just aging me now.
Well, what I was going to say is, obviously, you've been the founder of Enterprise Nation for 13 years. You're also the founder, or one of the founders of Startup Britain. You're also let's get this right, the small business representative for the Crown.
Yeah.
It's very, very grand, very, very impressive.
That's very regal, as if I should have had a crown, but I never had a crown.
And you're also on the board of Tech Nation as well. So, yeah, like I say, if anyone doesn't know who you are and what you do, they need to check you out, and definitely check out Enterprise Nation, because it is definitely a fantastic resource for any freelancer, startup, micro business, anyone who's thinking of starting a business or has recently started a business or wants to grow their business. So do you want to tell us a little bit about Enterprise Nation and over the 13 years, why that started and how it's grown over the 13 years?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I'd love to offer you a job of pitching Enterprise Nation. You do a great job of it. So thank you for that. So yeah, as you say, kind of Enterprise Nation started a while ago, but the reason I started the business was based on my experience of starting a first company before then. So this really does feel as if it's aging me, but I had left university to work for a big accounting firm called Arthur Andersen, which is sadly no longer around. But what I did for Arthur Andersen is I'd done Japanese at university, so I was helping international companies move into the UK, including Japanese businesses. And in the year 2000, so for anyone who's watching who was around and operating in business in the year 2000, it was the height of the dot-com boom. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting in the offices of Arthur Andersen in Manchester at the time. I'd worked in London, Leeds, Manchester. And I was reading about all these amazing businesses that were starting. They were raising loads of money. They were changing the way that industries worked. And I thought, I think I could do that in my world of, was then, inward investment. So I left Anderson's and in the year 2000 launched my first business, which was a dot-com company called techlocate.com. It was me and a co-founder in the first business. I don't know if we'll talk about the benefits of having a co-founder, but I'm a sole founder at Enterprise Nation, which is a very different journey. But so I started this business, techlocate.com, and essentially we sold it very quickly. So within 15 months of the company being up and running, we had an acquisition approach. So pretty much within 2 years, we'd kind of started, grown, and then sold the business. So I literally sat, when I sold the business, I sold it to a business called Tenon, and I had to do what was called a lock-in clause, which means that because they've acquired you, you have to stay there. So I had an 18-month lock-in clause where I'd gone from running my own business to ultimately then working for somebody else. So I pretty much spent 18 months thinking, how am I going to get out of here when my lock-up clause finishes? So on the day I was allowed, I left and started Enterprise Nation. And just the reason for being of Enterprise Nation, I was really motivated by a book. I love seeing those books behind you, Paul. But I read a book at that time called Free Agent Nation, which was written by a guy called Dan Pink. And so bearing in mind, this was kind of like 2003, this was a long time ago, 2003, 2004. And essentially he wrote this incredible book, which is still relevant today, about the rise of small businesses in the US. And what he was saying is there were huge numbers of free agents, but the US itself, there wasn't an infrastructure there to support them. So I kind of read this book and thought, I am sure the same thing is going to happen in the UK, because what happens in the US tends to happen in the UK a couple of years later. And I think a lot of people are going to start their own business. And so the reason for Enterprise Nation launching was part out of personal experience, that having started, grown, and then sold a business, I thought it'd be really great if there was somewhere where you could go and access support. And then secondly, it was kind of just looking ahead and thinking, I think this is going to be a bigger market in this country over the years to come. So part personal experience, part doing that kind of market research, and Enterprise Nation was born as a place to help other people start and grow a business. And as you say, we've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, amazing. So again, for anyone that doesn't know, so I'm a member of Enterprise Nation. I've joined Enterprise Nation. So what do people get for becoming a member?
Yes,
I know, but other people don't know. So.
Yeah, no, of course. So now it's time for me to do the pitch. I mean, I guess Enterprise Nation has changed, as many businesses have, in the past 7 weeks. So I guess pre-coronavirus, we were a very active physical kind of company. So we ran 300 plus events around the UK, and that was everything from we used to do a really popular event called Startup Saturday, which was how you start a business in the space of a day. We used to do international trade missions, so literally flying hundreds of businesses to Asia, to India, to the US to help them export. So we used to do lots and lots of physical events, but of course we also had a very strong online arm, which is now pretty much 100% of the business at the moment. So enterprisenation.com is essentially a marketplace where businesses can access business support. And what we see our job to do is, if a small business owner comes onto Enterprise Nation, whether they're at the stage of starting or thinking about growing, our job should be to help connect you with events, with content, with other people who look like you, but also with advisors. So whether you've got questions on anything from VAT registration to how to use Instagram stories, you should find the solution on Enterprise Nation, either to self-learn, so just kind of read content, watch a webinar, understand it yourself, or connect with someone who's an expert in that topic. So that's what we do. And at the moment, we have a very lively community. So up until about 7 weeks ago, kind of the size of the Enterprise Nation community is we were talking to about 250,000 small businesses each year across social via the platform. But traffic in the past 6 weeks is up 200%. Just because so many businesses needed, that government guidance on what was happening with schemes, etc. So the size of the community is growing as businesses need that support.
Yeah, amazing. Well, the content is excellent. It has been as long as I'm aware, as long as I've been aware of it. I know Dan Martin joined a few years back, and he's a fantastic editor, journalist, blogger, whatever you want to call it, content writer. So I know that since he joined, I think things have really kind of ramped up in terms of the content. So, but you've always had really great people working in the team. And then I think the other thing as well, it is the access to government that you've got as well. So definitely, I know through Startup Britain and then obviously the role you've got now as the small business representative for the Crown, you do have very good links with government, so you can feed in information from your members to central government, but you can also get messages from them down to your members. So that is a real strength, I think, of what you offer.
I should say though, the Crown Rep job, I don't have that job at the moment, so I'm just thinking I maybe should change the.
Okay, sorry, I know you had it.
Even though it's funny, actually, I was saying to someone that so the role of that Crown Rep job was to encourage government to buy more stuff from small businesses. So it's all around procurement. And actually, I was saying to someone the other day that when I did have it, for the 2 years I had it, I did kind of like 1 day a week. And I said to somebody the other day, one job, if I wasn't running a business, probably the one job I would love to do full time is that job, is helping government essentially understand small businesses and critically how to buy from them. So yeah, I'm not in that role at the moment, but if I wasn't running a business, that would be my number one job that I'd want to do.
So was that a new role? Has there always been someone doing that sort of role?
Yeah, it's always been a thing. So government have, I think there's about 25 Crown reps, and the job first of all that they had is government have got what they call strategic suppliers. So companies like Sage, Microsoft, Fujitsu, BT, so huge companies who sell huge amounts to government. They have kind of representatives who represent they're kind of like a go-between between the big company and the government purchasing departments. And as government did start to buy more from small business, they said, well, actually, maybe we should have one Crown rep who just focuses on all small businesses. And the good things, and again, lots of things have kind of been slightly derailed by coronavirus, understandably so. But up until kind of a year ago, there was a really strong agenda within government to say, let's buy more from small businesses. So the person who appointed me actually into the role was Matt Hancock, who of course is now Health Secretary. He is super small business supportive. And you may have seen this actually, but in the NHS, since he's been running it, they are buying a lot more from small businesses. So Matt kind of practices what he preaches, but I think we need to probably get beyond kind of the next 6 months to try and bring that back onto the agenda. But hopefully government will keep on buying, because it's a great customer to have for small businesses, because they pay really quick. So, I mean, many other reasons, but payment is a good one.
Yeah. I know, well, I can't remember what it was called, but there is a platform for procurement, isn't there, to try and get more small businesses on there to make it easier for them to get government contracts.
Yeah, Contracts Finder.
Yeah, okay, good. Right, we'll have to check that out. And yeah, I have met Matt Hancock. I've heard him speak before. Yeah, he does seem very, very pro small business, but very tech savvy as well. You know, he's really keen to embrace digital. So, and I know obviously it's a terrible thing that's been going on with coronavirus, but locally in the Northeast, I don't know what it's like elsewhere in the country, but definitely in the Northeast, there's a big push to get small businesses shifting their operations, particularly if they're manufacturers, to start producing PPE. And there's loads of contracts and loads of opportunities for people to supply into the NHS. So that seems to be going quite well, I think.
Yeah. Long may it continue. Not PPE equipment, sorry, I don't mean that particular, but I do think, and I've kind of watched that with interest, and I've sent quite a few people that link actually, because government is kind of saying, we're looking for all of these things. If you can supply them, pitch to us. And so the thing I meant, long may it continue, is this idea of government doing rapid procurement cycles, because I think that definitely would benefit smaller firms.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So so what have you learned over the last 13 years? Because we'll go back a little bit. You talked about books before, so you've got some great books out which I've read and have helped me as well. So before I started my own business, I've been self-employed 4 years, coming up 4 years now, and before that I probably spent about 15 years helping other people start their own business. So I've been in jobs where I've been given help and advice, signposting, distributing a bit of funding, kind of learning on the job and reading all the books and going to all the events and building up my knowledge and expertise, until it got to a point where I thought, I've got to do it now. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. Your books have been great. Like I remember in particular, was it Working 5 to 9?
5 to 9.
That's a great book, because people talk about side hustles now, but that you were definitely one of the first people that I saw writing and talking about that, about you might have your day job, but then on an evening, look at all the ways you can start a business. You can test the water and do something on your evenings and weekends and in your spare time. So you've had quite a few books out now, haven't you?
No, quite a few, and it did make me smile actually. On Working 5 to 9, so the full title was Working 5 to 9: How to Start a Business in Your Spare Time. And I think that came out maybe 2010. Anyway, whichever the year was, but it made me smile because about a year ago, a big company wrote to me and they said, Dear Emma, we're hosting a breakfast on the rising trend of the side hustle. Not sure if you're aware of this, but this is where people have a day job and start a business. Would you attend this breakfast? And I never normally do this, but I kind of wrote back and was like, yeah, I was writing about it 8 years ago. But this is the thing, I have to, every time, and I love this rise of the side hustle, I love it. But it's, I guess when you kind of come up with a title for the book or for any book, part of you kind of thinks, will you create a kind of that people start to use that word? And again, when Working 5 to 9 first came out, quite a few people were saying, oh, I'm a 5 to 9er. And the concept was you go home and you work from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. That was kind of what the idea of it was. But I think there was then a book written called The Side Hustle. And that's the term that's taken off. So I am loving seeing this rise. And of course, at the moment, I think I do think we're going to see a startup boom in this country, because there's 6 million people on furlough, and we are getting lots of evidence to show that lots of them are using this opportunity to say, actually, I've now got more time to work on my side hustle. But yeah, I wrote books back in the beginning. I have not written a book for a long time. It was all very much at the beginning. And I guess maybe this is kind of one point that hopefully will kind of be of interest for viewers is, I guess I was giving advice to people on how to start a business, and a huge piece of advice that we continue to give actually is that if anyone's starting like a service-based business, become the expert in your field. And so, you know, take your knowledge, turn it into a book, create a training course, you know, share it via blog posts, then share it across social. And I just always thought, I need to do these things in order to advise others to do it. And I feel really strongly about that, that all the advice we give on Enterprise Nation to help other people start and grow, we should do that with the conviction of knowing that we've kind of been through that process ourselves. So yeah, there were kind of quite a few books at the beginning. And what's really interesting, and again, I hope this kind of gives some confidence and hope to anyone who's listening, who's thinking of starting a business, is my very first book I wrote was in 2008, called Spare Room Startup: How to Start a Business from Home. And I mean, part of me is really embarrassed, because if you look at that book now, there was no reference to Twitter, no Facebook, no Instagram, because these platforms didn't exist, which is kind of just amazing to think of a time where we didn't have them. But actually the basics of starting a business that were in that book kind of, you know, from 12 years ago are pretty much similar today. So it's, you know, come up with an idea, write a business plan, make sure you're making sales, do a cash flow forecast, promote yourself, be good to customers, and kind of keep on doing it. So the basics of starting a business have not changed that much in the past 20 years. We've just had huge enabling technology that's helped us just do that quicker, better, faster and cheaper.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people kind of forget the basics, you know, like, so new tools come along, new methods of delivery and communication, but fundamentals are still the same.
Same.
Even the idea of a business plan, like, business plan's never changed. It's still the same format and the same structure. It sounds a bit old-fashioned saying, you know, you're doing a business plan, I'll send it, but actually the process of writing a business plan or something like that is really useful. So yeah, it's worth digging out those, not just your books, but yeah, going back to basics. The other thing I like as well, like, not just Enterprise Nation, but all your books, it is what you just said there. You're a practitioner as well. Like, everything that you say, you are doing it yourself, or you have done it, and it is really practical, genuinely useful advice. It's not just theory. And you've got, your books are always packed full of resources and links and case studies and examples of how to do it. So that is something that I've always really liked about the stuff that you've done, Emma.
Hopefully helpful. I tell you what's getting harder though is, you know, and our job is definitely to give the practical information on how to start and grow, and kind of Enterprise Nation itself became, you know, this wonderful term of a scale up. So just kind of post the Startup Britain world, when I stepped out of the Startup Britain campaign back into the business, I kind of thought, right, it's time to grow this business now. And again, you kind of want to go through phases as a business owner. And I just thought, I can't advise other businesses on how to grow unless I've built a scaling business myself. So we pretty much over the past 3 years have become a scale up. We've grown at 20% each year. You know, the official definition is more than 10 employees and you're growing at 20% plus each year. So we then became a scale up company. And actually the thing that I am hearing from many more founders now on which they're looking for advice is more the mental attitude towards starting and growing a business. So, you know, you can get the practicalities in place, figure out your finances, understand HR, get to know your product. But I guess what I feel many more founders are looking for now is just how do they keep going with the mental resilience required, especially at the moment, as just how you keep on going. So that's something. It doesn't come hugely comfortable to me because, you know, I'm just kind of much more focused on the practicalities. But I did a post on International Women's Day in March of this year. about being a female founder, and I'm a sole founder at Enterprise Nation, which, as I say, is quite a different thing to being a co-founder. And it kind of felt a bit odd to share it, but essentially it was a post that kind of said, if you have bad days and if you have days where you kind of think, is this all worth it? You know, try and earth yourself back down again to why you're doing what you're doing. And I do feel that this is kind of almost a next level of advice that when I first started out, you know, 10 plus years ago, people weren't that interested in understanding the mental capability required to run a business, but there's so much more interest in that kind of area of it now.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. Near the end of last year, I wrote an article that there's a website called Be Daily, which is like a north. They do different regions, but it's kind of the main business newsletter website for the Northeast. But I wrote a piece about, they had a week-long series of content about scaling up, and I wrote a piece about that, about the different mindsets required to go from a startup to a scale-up. So definitely, this is coming up to my 4th year in business. So I'm kind of an established micro business now. I'm definitely not a startup anymore, right? But then definitely last year I started thinking, well, I need a whole different way of thinking and a bigger set of goals, and that to get to that next level, if that's what I want to do. You know? And there's a bit of, I guess, tension there between, like, I quite like it being small and just being me, and I bring people in as and when I need them, as opposed to having a big team of people to be responsible for. I quite like the ability to just do what I want when I want. The freedom and flexibility comes with that, but at the same time, where I want to take the business, I can't just do. I need to grow. I need a team, like a full-time team around me to achieve what I want to do. So there is that mental shift that's needed. So I've been going through that in the last 6 months. I've been getting some coaching and mentoring and guidance on that, and coming into end of last year, start of this year, I've got a plan. I had a business growth plan. I started the year like really strong and focused and clear on what I was going to do, and then bloody coronavirus happened. So, but actually, just the last month has just been kind of like steadying the ship and like stopping money going out and bringing money in. But now I'm clear on what I'm doing again. Like, I'm doing this event, this Start a Week online, and basically everything that I said I was going to do, it's exactly the same. It's just doing it in a slightly different order, or slightly different way, or a bit sooner than I planned. But actually, it's still there. It's still relevant. Everything I said I was going to do, I've just got to focus. I've got a plan. I've just got to focus on it and not get distracted by all the other things that I can't control. So yeah.
Go for it, Paul Lancaster. Go for it.
So do you want to tell us briefly about the Tech Nation? The role you're on the board quite recently. You joined the board, and what are you hoping to get out of that, or what are you hoping to bring to that?
Well, I know it's terrible, but this is twice now that I'm saying this, so I've just stepped down.
Oh no.
And actually, this is probably the first public time I'm saying it, because I don't think it's necessarily kind of gone public. But no, I've been on the board for 2 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I've been on it for a while, and there's quite a big process going on underway that looking for a new chair at the moment. So I thought this is a good time to go, because when the new chair comes in, they kind of should have new faces around the board. I mean, it's been an amazing organisation, I guess, whereas Enterprise Nation is very much for businesses that are tech enabled, 0 to 10 employees. Kind of the world of Tech Nation is much more businesses that are, you know, tech accelerated rather than just enabled. So it's fascinating, and it is definitely a different world. So I think Tech Nation has been a good investment for the government, because of course most of the money still comes from public sources. The big push, which hopefully has been good news in the Northeast, the big push over the past couple of years has been to get out of London, have people in the regions, so it truly is kind of a Tech Nation scene. So hopefully what we'll continue to see is investment going into tech businesses being able to find the talent, which has, you know, been a little bit of an issue, and just, you know, having this kind of exit plan or otherwise. I think there's still a lot of debate in the UK as to, if you name the big tech companies, well, they're all American. or Chinese who are just building these massive gargantuan companies. I still think that's okay, that the kind of UK builds really good, solid, often R&D based technology businesses, grows them to a certain point, maybe then exits. So hopefully that very fervent and kind of vibrant community will just kind of keep on going. But I will be watching from off the board rather than on it.
All right, yeah, good. Well, you know, I was part of Tech North, which is like a sister organisation to Tech Nation. So yeah, Tech City, Tech North, and then they merged to become Tech Nation. But I definitely think having the regional representation, like the entrepreneur engagement managers or whatever you call them, is a real strength of what they do. Because even going back before that, when I worked for Sage, it used to be frustrating that the government would regularly say, we need more companies like Google or Facebook. And they'd be like, why don't you talk about Sage or other big companies, homegrown British companies that are global success stories? And you had to regularly remind not just politicians, but journalists as well, that there were great companies outside of London, like, and British companies all over the country. And yeah, I remember talking to quite a lot of journalists saying, well, how can you have a successful tech company in Newcastle? Like, because in a way, when Tech City first started, they did such a good job of promoting London as the tech hub of the UK that people kind of forgot that there was things already happening there.
Anything happened anywhere else?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, having the national representation is really important. Yeah, so, and you know, the programs that they run are excellent, and the events that they always used to do, always amazing, and the communications fantastic as well. So as a flag waver bearer, whatever, for the UK, they are a really good organisation for not just the country, but internationally as well. So,
I think they'd be delighted to hear that, so I shall share that with them.
Good, good. Well, they've got the new lady, Kate, who's just joined. She's the new entrepreneur engagement manager for the Northeast. She's currently living in Edinburgh, but she's due to move down to Newcastle or whenever. But and I think there's a big opportunity there for the Northeast as well. I've been talking about this for the last 12, 18 months about trying to bring the Northeast and Scotland closer together. Because definitely. Newcastle is only an hour and a half on the train to Edinburgh. And so yeah, even going back to the Shell Live days, I used to think we look south too much when we're in the Northeast, and we should look north and try to bring the Northeast, Scotland and the Nordics together. So I've been doing quite a bit of work around it's the Viking connection, basically. So and
that's amazing.
Yeah, and when I've been going to Edinburgh, and I went to Copenhagen last year. So when I'm talking to people who are already here and up there, they're all really receptive to the idea, and it's not something they've really thought of before. But when you talk about it, they're really into the idea of that triangle of Northeast, Scotland, Nordics. And
what would you call it? There must be a great, like the equivalent of BRICS that there was for the kind of emerging states. You're going to have to come up with a word for that.
Yeah, there is something about the I can't remember what it's called, but there is an acronym for the kind of Eastern Seaboard, kind of going up to Scotland. So right, I think Emma's been kicked out of this now, so she's got another call to go on to. So it's always amazing hearing from Emma. She is a massive inspiration to me and a lot of other people. So check out Emma Jones, check out Enterprise Nation. And that's it for this talk, and we check out our other videos soon. Okay, thank you. Bye.